Hello, hello. I'm really excited to be taking a look at these cards with you. And I have already looked through these and kind of sorted, kind of gone through the guidebook, and because I really wanted to get a good handle on, what was this system that I was taking a look at. Was it a expansion of the Lenormand deck, because it does share a lot of um, similarities, especially in reading style, to Lenormand, and there are some cards that are similar. Of course, those are similar cards in a lot of different, even older cartomancy systems. But I wanted to kind of get my handle on whether or not what this was. So I have looked at this. I have not gone into the card by card as much. As I've seen some of them. It's mostly been just really going through the guidebook and getting a handle on it. But the interesting thing about this one is that while the creator of this deck did send this to me for the purposes of review, before that I had been messaged by the lovely Nicole, who had been, had picked this deck up and had used it. I think at that time she'd been reading with it for a week or so and thought it was very interesting, and that would be something that I would be interested in, and liked sort of the system that it has that's involved in it, which is to do with actually the seasons and the turning of the year, and when the beginning of that, the middle of that, the end of that. So she liked the system that was put into place here. And and had sent me the link, and I had taken a look at it, and I was like, "That's amazing! I will put that on," because this was like not too far before Christmas, and I was like, "I'm gonna put that on my list. I will definitely be picking that up in the new year once when I'm in the space where I'm gonna buy a deck." And then I was again sent this for the purposes of the review, but I wanted to be clear that it was something that had been pointed out to me and something that had caught my interest before that was the case. So these are called the Kalat cards, Kalat, which is the last name of the creator. The illustrations are by, and I'm sure I'm going to slaughter their name, Injlan, but the creator of the deck is Dennis Kalat, and I don't know if it's Calais, not sure. Dutch Swish. He's, I believe, was born in um, Denmark, but now lives in the mountains in Switzerland, something like that. But the cards whisper a slightly dark fairy tale situated in the Scandinavian kingdom of Kalat or Calais. The Calatian map divides in 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And these well known seasons have a big influence on the spread. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy. So there is a guidebook that comes with it, and there are 52 oracle cards, one for each of the weeks of the year, and there are 4 seasons, and then there are also indicators of movement through the seasons. There are 3 bonus cards that you could use. I don't probably plan to put those in for myself, but I will look at those in a minute. So box is really nice. It's a metallic box, and on the inside it says, "There in the distance, everything is so clear to me." And then we have the guidebook. So this is what I take to be a fictional Scandinavian town, or a channeled, however you want. It looks like it may be done in like journey space or channeled space, but it doesn't go into that too much detail in the guidebook. But what I love about this is that it has the seasons, because this is winter, spring, summer, and fall, and they are in sort of the directions that I work with the seasons. So I actually liked seeing that a lot. And this is also on the back of the cards. So this is the guidebook here. Whoa, focus. This is the guidebook. We'll come back to that in a second. And then we have the box, and it's in, it's got an insert, but it's one of those nice ones that the cards can't slide into there and get lost. So nice compact little box there. And then we have the cards which do have that same mapping on the back, which I love the look of. Has a brown gilding, which I want to say I've never seen a brown gilding, and I absolutely love it. It's kind of like coppery in nature, but it's not a copper. Like, it looks like a brown gilding. Pretty cool. I prefer truthfully at this point in life, I prefer my cards ungilded. I think they riffle shuffle for me better. And I just tend to like a more matted on the edges, but I absolutely love that, as you can see, I love the brown nail polish. But yeah, I love those edgings. And then the fronts are no borders, no titles. There is a symbol for the season. There is the number, and this is the week number. And then this is on only some cards. This one here indicates that it is winter and it is the beginning of winter. And then there is another card in here. I don't want to like give away all the cards. But then there is, for example, here is the card that is for the middle of winter. And then there is the card that is the conclusion and the ending of winter. So those are the insignias that you have: the season, the week of the year, and then some of the cards have, for each season, there are 3 cards, the beginning, middle, and ending of that season. So that's kind of the layout. They are matte. I have not riffle shuffled them to tell you how those are going to shuffle, but they are matte. It just looks, all in all, looks really, really beautiful. We'll see at the end how they riffle, because it is nice thick cardstock, and sometimes that makes smaller decks hard to shuffle. In terms of riffling, that probably will. You can also see, look at that. You can see the seasons, the winter, the spring, going into summer, and then going into fall. You can definitely in coloration see the moving of the seasons, which is pretty cool also. So that's that. We will come back to the cards in a minute. So for the guidebook, let me get my glasses, that might be helpful. Here you got a guidebook. It's 135 pages. Doesn't have, it's got images, so it's got some beautiful like sketching, almost like it's the pre-sketching of the art. So it's quite lovely on how it's done, but there's no colored images like of the card. But it's very well put together. We have the introduction from the creator. My name is Dennis Kalat or Calais, and I'm Dutch Swiss medium living in the tiny Alp village of Haldenstein. Ever since I was a young kid, I was always attracted by symbols and colors. They fascinate me. I didn't know anything about oracle cards at the time, but I already experienced more paranormal impressions than I could handle at that age. That was the reason I blocked my gift as much as possible for a long time, until I bought an oracle deck many years later. With that, I set a lot in motion. The colors and symbols were the order of the day again. A few years ago, I came to have visions, and it seems like I have been guided towards creating the deck I am presenting now. The Kalat or Calais cards tell a good story. It has a lot of depth and solid structure due to the presence of the seasons. The beautiful images from illustrator, I just feel like I'm really slaughtering their name, make it easy to get to know the cards and their possibilities. So then it goes right into how to approach the cards. It really breaks it down right from the get-go, which I like. There is a card for every week of the year, so that at the end we have 13 cards per season, make a total of 52 cards for the year, 1 card for every week. So on the pages for each of the cards, right, you have on the left the symbol. Well, this isn't one of the cards, but you have the name of it and you have the week. So that is, even though this is being put as the first card because seasonally, that it starts here, but this is actually the 51st week, and it is the moon card. Excuse me. But of course, this is associating with the winter solstice. Then we have the 52nd week with the stars card, but this is leading into New Year's Eve. And then we have the first week going in. So that might seem a little bit confusing, but if you think about the full cycle of the year, and so coming along down the road, and then of course it's starting out, or it ends in this deck has you ending in the 50th week. And then of course because at the end of autumn, and then it starts with winter here back on the 51st. Sorry, I turn my phone off. So so on the left page, you'll find the week number and the name of the card. Then you'll get a short story and the most important keywords. So this page gives you pretty much what you need to know to be able to interpret the card itself. But then on the right side, you will find the season symbols of winter, spring, summer, and fall. Next to it are atmospheric phrases with keywords that reflect the card. So these are, from my understanding, these are if winter. So if this is meant to be pulling multiple cards. It really reads like Lenormand or Kipper or Sibylla or playing cards. So it's very much a cartomancy deck, and so you would always be pulling at least two. And I think they later somewhere I read where they definitely suggest or recommend 3 cards at minimum, and that a 5 card is like a good solid space for getting, so that you have that, like what seasons are predominant, to be able to interpret the cards more thoroughly. So they also give you some examples of this current card. Well, this is spring. This current card, flowers. So flowers plus the moon, flowers plus the stars, flowers plus the tram, so on and so forth. So you'll see this in Lenormand guidebooks, where when they're card decks that are meant to be read in unison, they give you some examples of how you might read that in conjunction with other cards. So this is just kind of telling us what's there. They also talk about how some of the cards have the time location markers. I already showed those to you. Those are whether it's in the beginning, the middle, or the end of their season. So of course that's only some of them. The seasons can also have a big influence on card combinations, at which we saw here. They give you examples. If in the reading winter is heavy, then you might interpret that card differently because of the weight of the seasons. It does recommend some page numbers, but I will say 120 really shows, also affects yes and no. Winter is slow moving energy and no, and is associated with night. Spring energy is fast, yes, and morning. Summer is slow, yes, and afternoon. Autumn is fast, no, and evening. So they do the slow and fast, the yes and the no, and then the timing of the daytime associations. Obviously already have the seasonal and the week associations on the cards themselves, right? The number on the card is an actual week, and then of course you'll have the symbol of what season it's in, so you already have the seasonal there as well. So yeah. And then there's more in the back. We'll talk about that more. So each of the seasons has their own spread, talking about winter, talks about how winter works in conjunction with the deck. So for example for winter passes slowly, and it answers usually with no, or it at least slows down depending on the number of winter cards in your spread. Especially in the middle of winter, this season can feel inexorable. These are the forces we deal with. You might want to stay home and sit it through, especially if you're having the one showing up for the middle of winter. So each of the seasons have their own seasonable explanation of how in this deck the different seasons are represented, and then it goes into each of the cards that are in that season. So for example, the moon card, let's go ahead and show you the moon card. So, beautiful, beautiful moon card. A beautiful deer wants to shine in the winter solstice moonlight. The enchanting moon gives everything a silver lining. Ego, reputation, beautification, reflection, enchanting, recognition, appreciation, dreaming, appearance. On this special night, the moon lights things up and makes them more beautiful. It's like your Christmas decoration, makeup, glitter, and glamour. And that's why it never hurts to take another look at things in the light of day. So there's definitely a bit of that half light energy, certainly reputation, how you're being seen. Now, if this were to show up in a reading where there's a lot of winter energy, right? It says whistling in a theater is a bad omen for the premiere and performance. So things may be getting dragged down if there's too much winter. I find these to be interesting. I don't know if some of them are to do with translation, right? So for example, here is autumn. In the theater wings, I asked myself if it's worth being tormented by the mirror every day. Maybe this was my swan song. So, you know, again, with autumn potentially slowing things down, it can have an effect on how you would read this, but they don't, for me, always make complete sense. And again, I do think some of it might just be to do with translation. A toy, toy, toy ushers in my dance on the frozen moonlight lake. Tonight I want to lure the audience with my talent. If there's a lot of spring, I don't know what that would mean, a toy, toy, toy. I don't know if that's a bird sound or something. But I get the understanding that if spring was here and I was sort of presenting myself in all my glory, the spring is going to amplify that energy up, right? So I think it's almost, for me, a little bit more helpful just to really come to an understanding of how each of the seasons might, you know, their overall energy, and then think about, okay, it doesn't take a lot, it's common sense, like how would that, if there was a lot of that winter energy, how could that start to weigh the reading down? And of course that would also depend on the question. Whether or not a lot of winter cards are good or bad is also going to be determined by the question itself. So so again, I think that's helpful. I think there are some sort of places where I might be missing things in translation, but I think the idea of this is very important because, again, you're trying to not just take this card in isolation, but it's in conjunction with other cards, but it's also in conjunction with how much of different seasons are in energetically in the reading, which I really love. So it's just like when, sorry, I'm gonna put my glasses down here. It's just like, you know, if you do a tarot reading and there's a lot of cup cards, that's going to influence how I interpret the reading overall. Same thing with you know, if I'm doing a reading and there's a lot of wands or something like that, and the card I'm interpreting is one card, right? It's affecting, energetically affecting the cards by the cards around it. So it's one of the allures of actually having suits is we can see the way those things are interacting. So I actually really like bringing in a suit system to a cartomancy deck, and I like that it's seasonal. So I think that that's a great way to interpret it. So again, gives you that, and then it gives you, and I think this is using moon and a sun in a small spread row or column may indicate polarization. Stars in a short-term event, as the stars will bring tomorrow. So they do give you a little bit of, if it shows up predominantly, you know, some important thing that it might show up as, but then it does give you again all of the breakdowns. If it's with another card, this is how you might interpret it, and those can be really helpful if you're just kind of stuck and you're like, I don't even know what to do with these two cards. That can be really helpful to kind of get your brain popping. Again, I would say that if you are comfortable with cartomancy, so again, Lenormand, Sibylla, Kipper, my Nelly's deck, which has an expanded Lenormand, but it's tied to the system of the miners, so it has the system there. If you're comfortable with playing card divination, those types of things where you do use multiple cards to provide the nugget here instead of one card nugget and then pulling all those together. I think that this is not going to be outside of your wheelhouse whatsoever if you're already comfortable with that style of cartomancy. And in fact, when you look into the back, so it goes through obviously all of the cards, which we'll walk through, but then in the back there is a section on how to use the cards. How to pay attention to the seasons, understanding that, and an example of how you might use those influences of the season. What cards spread should you pull? 2 cards are fine for yes and no. I actually think 3 cards are best for yes and no. That's my personal opinion because I like yes but no buts. But anyways, 2 cards would give you a pretty solid at least. 3 cards are great for simple questions. 5 cards gives you a really good sentence. And then of course a 9 card is almost ideal for cartomancy. I have a whole video on how 9 card is really ideal for any card system. And then it gives you a tableau. And this here you can really see the influence of Lenormand here. And again, not just Lenormand. They did tableaus with playing cards. Like tableaus are pretty popular in cartomancy. So we've got the layout here of it, which is just starting from that 51 and going all the way till 50. And this provides the houses that they sit on. Talks about knighting, talks about the trail, which is chaining, or what I call chaining. Talks about the people cards, so to speak. I'll come back to that in a minute. Talks about mirror cards. I don't use mirror cards as much. That's where, you know, even if you have a card that ends up on the corner here, you can, if you fold the whole chart in half, well, those cards that are over here, like 50, ends up being over here so that you can get a full message. I don't use mirroring. I use the cards that are there and on the table, but that is a Lenormand style of tableau reading, so that allows you to kind of extend out the tableau. Talks again about paying attention to those start, middle, and end markers. And there we have it. So again, very much if you're comfortable with cartomancy style, or you like and enjoy cartomancy style readings, I think this is a bit of a no-brainer, right? Quite intriguing to add to that pile of cartomancy style oracles. So let's so that's the book itself. Again, I feel like it does a good job, gives you everything that you need. I would say to be careful. I went through to just highlight where there were Lenormand cards, and while there are about 17 or 18 that are direct, you know, relations like tree and dog and house and that kind of stuff, they don't always have the same meanings as Lenormand. So just because it's a Lenormand card, sometimes yes, because obviously a ring is always going to have that contractual basis in a fortune telling style deck. So sometimes yes, but sometimes not. It can be different. So for example, the stars card is about overexcitement, high expectations, envy, spreading, expanding, party, participate. That's none of those are ways in which I interpret the stars card in Lenormand. And so I would be careful to not just ascribe the Lenormand meaning to the cards. Now, can you? Yeah, there's nothing on the cards themselves that even has the title, so you can kind of wing it with what you see there. For example, while this is the stars card, you know, you might really be focusing in on the celebration that's going outside, and this plant is trapped in here, which is what this talks about. So that, to me, I don't even really see anything that would force forced me to stick with stars on this, and because the focus of it is actually this plant. This disappointed plant was overexcited all about New Year's Eve. He had stars in his eyes. So it's more of that idea of stars in the eyes, that, you're not seeing things clearly because you have rose-colored glasses kind of thing. At midnight, everyone suddenly went outside to watch the fireworks, and he was left alone inside. So that's a very different energy than the stars card in Lenormand. And so I would just say that, to be careful that even though there are cards that correlate in name, it's not a Lenormand deck. So you kind of have to learn it like you do, any Oracle deck that you get, and roll with it. So, okay. That's kind of the basics. I got all kinds of little things that are just, I think it was from cutting stickers to set up my calendar. I love the backs. Absolutely love. I really love the visuals of this deck a lot. So let's look at the cards now. It is basically a poker-sized deck, maybe just a hair larger, but that's, I think, just because it's got gilding. So it's a poker-sized deck. I'm a huge fan of poker-sized decks. Most of mine are now there in one form or another. I do love the compactness, and especially in any kind of deck in which you're using it cartomancy style, you're using a lot of 9 cards, you're thinking about using a tableau, you're chaining, you're doing line readings. I think, if it's a cartomancy style deck, it should be cartomancy size. That's my personal opinion. Let's go in a little bit closer here. Again, we can see the back is really gorgeous. You've got the I think I already pointed this out, but you've got the winter, spring, summer, and fall symbols, and they are in the directions of north, east, south, and west, which are the associations I have to the directions, the seasons, and the elements. Obviously this doesn't talk about elements, but my elements would also go here with air, water, fire, and earth. That is not part of the system, but regardless, I like that it's the same. Okay, so you obviously already saw this card, but we can see that there's no titles on here. We have the symbol for winter. We have the week. Now, it is definitely light. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Days of Creation, the original one, that didn't have a title, and it was kind of, for me, it was kind of hard to see the numbers. Not on all of them, but in the daylight I don't have any issue, but right now it's quite late and dark, so in person I do have to really look at that week number. And then this, of course, is the beginning of winter. Not all of them have that, but the beginning, the middle, and the end do, just to give them some extra oomph. But it is there. My guess is that people with better eyesight than mine may not struggle, and maybe just a couple of them. But I can find it, and I can see what it is, knowing it's there. And it's really mostly a problem at night in my, of course, lighting situation. So that may vary. But I would say something behind that, maybe, to give a uniformed, see, that's so much easier to see. And so there may just, if in future iterations on some of these darker ones, might have to take that into account, but it's nothing that would stop me from using the deck. But anyways, you have the symbol for winter, you have the week, which is also the number of the card, but remember, 51 isn't going to be back here. It is going to be, and this only exception is 51 and 52, Week 51 and 52 are in winter. That's not too hard to remember if you're in the northern hemisphere, at least, for sure. So there's that. And then, of course, we have the beautiful moon. And again, we read through this, but this has to do with ego, reputation, reflection. Again, I think you can kind of run with the understanding of the moon, energy of the moon card. Much more, I would say, moon energy, tarot moon energy, than like Lenormand moon energy, which is more kind of rising energy. But I mean, that could be part of it as well. Again, this one is the stars. This is kind of where I'm kind of glad that there isn't a title on here, because for me, this is more about the plant. But again, I do like the idea of having stars in their eyes. I wonder if there are stars. No, but there are eyes. Oh my goodness. Okay, I do love that. Look at that. There are eyes. I was looking to see if there were stars in their eyes, but there are eyeballs in the plant. So, again, this isn't a Lenormand stars card, right? This is about expectations, which I think is great to have a card about expectations, which is such a big issue. I personally think it's a huge human issue, is setting ourselves up to all these expectations, but in the end, our expectations we don't meet up with our expectations very often. So that is an interesting one. Definitely speaks to short-term events, because new stars will come out tomorrow. New things will happen after that. So now we have the tram. I would call this, I guess, in the U.S. a trolley. I guess I didn't realize that trams and trolley. I guess I thought trams were buses. That's kind of cool. And look at it, it's got sleds. I don't know if there are trams that really have sleds, or if that's just part of the fictional world here that we're inhabiting. Either way, I love it. This is associated with the first week, right? So now we're in the beginning of the new year. This is an arrival, having something come in. Apparently this frameling, and I know I'm slaughtering that, it means stranger. So it's like a stranger coming in, a new beginning, something unexpected. Although you could also use this for timing, because I would assume that trams come in on a regular schedule. So you could think of it as a little bit like rider energy, in terms of energy that is coming in. It doesn't seem to necessarily, like, the rider card is more about good news. Generally speaking, it's good news unless there's something that would say otherwise. Where this is kind of more, okay, there's a stranger coming in, new energy's coming. Is this good or is this bad? Is obviously going to be told by the cards around it. So again, love that for a card energy. I love this snow globe so much. The artwork is really beautiful. When we look inside the snow globe, we see a perfect little world revolving in its small circle. Snowflakes swirling everywhere. Life is pleasant. There is no reason to change anything that is good as it is. So this is more repeating, predictable. So that's interesting, right? Because we've got that stranger. So something new and unpredictable coming in. And so I guess that's what the way to think of this as. It's really more about the stranger than the tram. The tram might come in on regular schedule, but what is it bringing today? It could be bringing good energy, it could be bringing bad energy, like who knows, right? Whereas this is all perfect and contained in its snow globe. Everything is always going to be the same here. There is a sense of safety. It says that there is an old Galatian stave church inside the globe, standing for a beacon of stability. So this kind of, I'm sure there's probably a house in here. I can't remember now from going through it, but this does have that energy of safety and security and stability, much like a house card in many fortune-telling style decks. So I love it. It's beautiful. Look at the clock. A large frost crack in the clock prevents the clock from running. So it's a broken clock, not a clock. There are great things in old fortune telling style decks like broken mirrors, broken windows. Like, I do think that's pretty cool. But this is a card of stagnation. The clock is broke, time has frozen. We're in like the rune Isa kind of energy where everything has come to a stasis here. Now that can be a good thing, right? Sometimes just getting off the clock and freezing the clock is a good thing. Whether that's good or bad is really going to be dependent on the situation. The keywords they have here is no changes, security, balance, assurance, time, permanent, stagnation. So it can just be time in general. It could be stagnation, or it could just be things are sort of fixed and still for the moment. It just depends on the question and the situation of whether or not that is fortunate or unfortunate energy. Love these cards. Look at this guy here. This is the Thief. And I have to say, I've only looked at this once, just trying to sort out what it was doing. And even though the titles aren't on here, it's not really hard once you kind of go through it and know what you're looking at. It's not really hard to see. There's some like hand coming out of the almost kind of Five of Swordsy, or Seven of Swords, where there's always that hand grabbing something. But this is Thief. Having a Thief card, like you see this with the mice, you see this as actual Thief cards in Kipper and Lenormand and other style decks, and it's really great to have. Something is taking away, right? Something is decreasing, stealing, eating away at what you have, and it's important to have a card like that. So I love to see that. And I love that sort of, you can't even hardly see it in the midst of the snowstorm. I do feel like there's a bigger story here because like, you got this like guy with the bandage, and the person who had pointed me out this deck had said that she thought there's a bigger story. I don't know. I didn't see that. I mean, I know it was channeled, but I don't know if that's something that they're going to release as more of a bigger story, or if it's something maybe she's been in contact with the creator about. I don't know. But it feels like there is definitely a story, which means, right, without needing to know the whole story, it means that you can obviously tell your own stories in the midst of it. Love this bridge. Now this is again not just a bridge, it's a broken bridge. Can you get across this in the frozen aspect? Sure, if everything's frozen, but boy, you better be careful. This is seen more of an obstruction or a blockage. I would say similar to mountain card energy. I do think there is a way across, right? You can find a way. You might have to wait until the ice is frozen firmly. You might have to go get a boat. You may have to, find a way around to be able to cross it. And that's very much to do with mountain energy. It's a blockage. You can find a way around it, but it's not going to be easy. So I do I like having that energy there. Of course, there's other ways that bridges can come up as well. That you can utilize that, but this one definitely needs some work to use it. Now, this is the Queen card, and now this is not considered the People card. There is, or the Person or the Querent card. There is a King towards the back, so there is a Queen and a King energy, but those are not like the Lord and Lady cards. We'll come to those in a minute. I do like this because it almost feels like the either the rich man and the rich young lady, or the older lady and the older couple that is in Kipper, or even the businessman and the rich young lady as well. Although these are definitely king and queen, so this is more established, mentory. They could give you advice kind of energy. And so I do like to have those sort of, because there's a lot of ways you can use this. Obviously, they're giving you their keywords and everything, but because there's no names on here, there's no keywords, obviously you can take this and run with this how it's going to work for you. that's my personal opinion. So we have the Queen. She is powerful. She is confident. She's impatient, very intense, very strong personality. She's not evil, but she is very focused and controlling. So she feels a little like the Ice Queen, maybe power driven, intimidating, maybe distant, cold, those types of things as well. But you can certainly use her in different ways. She knows what she wants. She's gonna get it one way or another. So definitely feels a little Ice Queeny in the thing, although it says here, this queen has no control over snow and ice as written in the fairy tales, but she will do everything to stop spring. Yeah, so again, that's one way to go with it. I could definitely see a lot to do with these, so I do like that. Love a labyrinth card. This says that this is a strategy card, right? The labyrinth asks for a solution, searching, strategy, adapting. It's a challenge, right? But it's not like a mountain. I mean, I guess you could even call this a mountain, but there is a solution, right? There is a specific way to go about solving this problem to get to the middle. And generally, there's a lot that you can learn when you get to the center as well. Love a labyrinth card. I think that is awesome. Here we have a beggar. So this kind of feels Five of Pentacles, right? There is some dependency. There is some loneliness. There is some disconnection. Like he's not in that warm winter globe, all safe and secure in the chapel or in the house, however you want to look at that. Like he's not in that safety and that security of that. He is outside of the building, detached from society, detached from people who might be able to help. So again, I do like to have that. I think it is good energy to have showing up. It says see the infinity symbol in the 8. Yeah. So it's that he's kind of stuck in a disconnected loop here. And you know, obviously you're going to have to see about how to get out of that situation, but like that, like having access to that energy in a reading. Here we have the Tower. Again, this isn't, well, I mean, I guess you could, sometimes people use the Lenormand Tower for sort of big institutions and things like that. I don't tend to. The Tower for me and Lenormand is much more about getting up and being able to really see clearly, stepping away from things slightly. This says distant, isolated tower is not really inviting and rather cold. It represents the institution that ensures order, rules, and enforcement, such as the government, town hall, police, army, court of justice, tax administration. It's kind of like the court card, right, in Kipper. So that sort of authority that comes from this institution. I don't, often need to read about governments, town halls, police, army, courts of justice, or tax administration. But you could still read it as that sort of institutionalized sort of power unto itself, kind of isolated here. Or, as I can do, like I could take that and read it a little bit more like I do read the Tower in Lenormand, because that is an important energy for a reading for me, and I use it all the time. So, I think we can go either way there. But definitely has that sense of bureaucracy with court connotations in the Kipper cards. And again, I'm not saying that this deck, just to be clear, I am not saying at all that this deck is taking off of Kipper or Lenormand or Sibylla or any of those things, but it's the style of those things which is what I am excited about. And so obviously I think those are really balanced systems, so I enjoy seeing where, okay, I can see where that energy would fit in because I use them a lot. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. It's not that this does not need to be any of those things, but it reads like those things, and so we can certainly see echoes there. Hopefully that makes sense. Love this ring card, right? This is pretty typical to how you would see fortune telling cards with ring. It's a commitment, right? It's a contract. It's a commitment. It is, I love how beautiful this is as like a wooden ring. And it has I don't know if it's, it's probably it's a gemstone, but it looks like ice with the Dr. Zhivago kind of ice castle behind it. It's quite beautiful. But it is contract, commitment, rights and obligations, warranty, assurances, guarantees, or chains. It can be frozen into this ball and chain as well with the ring. And so that one is, again, similar energy, very important. Here we have a heart. Half frozen heart represents all our feelings and emotions. Emotions, passion, enthusiasm, feelings, love. So again, the ring and the heart to me are very similar to the cartomancy style reading of heart and ring, and I think, again, very important when I'm doing readings looking for committed relationship. I'll use the ring as a significator. If they're looking for love, or searching for love or dating, I'll use the heart. Or if we're just talking about our passions and things like that, I'll use the heart. So I actually really like having both of those energies in play, and so I love to see those there. Now I did not pause because I was obviously too busy babbling, but let me back it up just a minute. How are we going to do this? You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to set these out and we'll come back and revisit them. Where we have the beginning and middle and end of each of the seasons, because I think that will be fun to look at, but we'll come back to those and we'll look at those at the end of all of the seasons. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to be zooming in and out. This is beautiful. Again, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. We are now moving into spring. Week 12 moves us into spring. And here we have the cherry blossoms to start out. Talks about how while winter was slow moving, we have a speeding up of energy with the energy of spring. So the first card is flowers. It's a gift, it's beauty, it's a surprise, it's hope, it's growing. Definitely has a similar energy to bouquet, maybe a combination of bouquet and clover energy there. That, again, I quite like to see. Those are energies that I obviously use a lot in readings, and so I'm happy to see that energy there. This is obviously also the beginning of spring, so we'll pop that up there. I love a cocoon as well. There is a more of a Lenormand, like a real Lenormand that just has extra cards on it. That has sort of the stages, and I love having that there, because this has that transformation, that healing, that rebirth that you actually have to kind of work into Lenormand. Like, I do see that in the snake card. I find the snake card to be complicated, but it does lead to transformation, whereas this is just a straight transformation card, and I actually really love to have that energy at play a lot. That makes me very happy. So now we have another person. This is Huldra. She is a beautiful lady, but I would say she is not a lady. This is going to bring in the idea of the fae in, which I love, and you'll see that come in again. But she's kind of tricksy, because you might think, oh my, there's a beautiful lady in the woods. Are there eyeballs in this flower? I don't see any. Be careful, be careful. Huldra is a beautiful lady with the tail of a cow and a very seductive smile. She lures you deep into the Kalatian forest, but she can't be trusted and doesn't have your best interests at heart. So this is deceiving, manipulative, seductive. Again, the false lady kind of idea. Could it have been a tricksy male? Like, not, it's, I feel like we get a lot, we do get sort of that tricksy female who's up to no good kind of thing. That can play out in fortune-telling style decks. Huldra steals babies from humans and replaces them with changelings, so-called Huldrabarn. A spring-like interpretation could mean Huldra plus child is about actually adoption, depending on how you're reading it. I probably would read this as sort of a Fae card, or again, kind of like the snake card where things are complicated and not exactly what they seem to be. So kind of like a warning, warning, Will Robinson. You know, she's just doing her thing. You know, if you want to come have a good time, don't complain to her if that's, you know, if you decide to go along with the game. So definitely that kind of Fae energy of you need to be careful what you're up to here. That is a beautiful crossroads. I love crossroads cards. I think it's important energy to have. I look at it all the time in Lenormand readings. I think it's so important to see where we're at a point where we have to go in a certain direction. So I love having that in the deck, and it is about choices and decisions and things of that nature as the typical crossroads card, and I love to have that, and this is an absolutely beautiful example of that. So then that brings us to the first of our, I would say, our querent and significant cards. Okay, I brought them both out, even though they're not in exact order of each other, just so we can see them. So again, we have the inclusion of the Fae, which I do love. This, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, this is the Askling of the past looking backward, and then we have the Askling of the future looking the other way. And so you can use these either, and I really like this, and there's a whole, obviously I'm taking way too long, but this can represent the querent's past, right? Or the querent themselves, or the, I mean, okay, let's say there's no other people involved, right? You're just doing a reading on a querent. This can be the querent's past and the querent's present and future because it's looking forward. This could be a person from the querent's past life. That says it right in here. Right here. It could represent anyone else in the querent's past life. So I do a lot of past life readings, so to be able to pull that in, excellent. Love that so much. And then this could be the querent, or it could also be somebody coming in the querent's future as well. Like you could use the king or the queen if you wanted as a significator card, and then use this as somebody in their past, somebody in their future, somebody in a past life, somebody that's going to be significant in a future life, so on and so forth. Like there's so much you can do with these. I absolutely love that. You can also use this for history, things that were before, just the past in general, same thing with the present and the future. And so I love that. So that is actually 16 and 20. They're not right next to each other, but I just figured we'd talk about them while we were there. Okay. Here we have the house card. So this is much more about almost like the, because we had the snow globe, which had a lot of like house energy for Lenormand, but what I love is that the house in this deck is more like, say, the living room in Kipper. It's that real private space. It's not like a generic sense of security or sense of stability, security, and sameness that we have here, but it takes it a step further in the house card where it's your family life, it's your inner circle, it's your private space. So I actually really love that because it's something I love about Kipper is having both the house and the living room, and these two together kind of feel like that, and I love that energy, and this is gorgeous. Again, love the artwork. Here we have the wings, so this is focused on the rings, movement. It's also, one of the keywords is actually an upgrade. Obviously they've come out of the cocoon, so it's got that upgrade like the high honor card in Kipper. Maybe a little bit of the stork card is that you could use it as that positive movement forward, but it's got that idea of an upgrade and movement And these happy moths are flying towards their new home. So it definitely has like the change card in Kipper, or the stork card in Lenormand, or even again the high honor card in Kipper, which again, these are energies that I like to see in a deck because I like to use those energies. Here we have the tree. This is again similar to Lenormand in that it's about our body, it's about our health, but also earth and grounding as well. So it's absolutely beautiful. It's our physicality that I think is, and it's a gorgeous card. Watch out for the things pecking holes in your well-being, right? Here we have, we talked about the asking of the future. Here is a dice card. I love the, like a luck card. This is different than, because you kind of sometimes wonder and you say, okay, well, how is that different than the tram and sort of like a stranger coming into town? But it actually is different energy. It's more about the free soul. It's more about, going off. It's the storyteller. It really is more about like a person who's kind of chosen that traveling sort of energy and that traveling way of being than it is to do with like a stranger coming in and bringing who knows what. So so definitely different energy. Again, love the artwork. Here we have, I forgot to pull out obviously that was the end of spring, and let me snag out the middle of spring just so we can look at them at the end. I know I have to pick up the pace. Here we have the start of summer. Summer moves more slow. We would like life to slow down in the summer so we can enjoy it. I don't think it always does anymore, but we would certainly like for it to do so. Obviously, we have the sun. This is associated with the summer solstice, illumination, optimism, success, celebration. Like we can see all that there, which is, I think, quite beautiful. I love the flower wreath on her head. I love the, like the maypole kind of energy there as well. So you have a bit of a sun as a success card here. And obviously this is the first in the summer. Love a hive one, right? That sort of collective working together, Three of Pentacles kind of energy. I think, again, that is fantastic energy to have in a deck for reading purposes. We have coins. So this is money, wealth, abundance. Instead of having fish or something like that, it's coins. It's money. Again, love the artwork. It's coins. It's resources. I would read this as time, energy, money. It's our resources and how we're managing them. Great to have. Here we have the harbor, which I actually really love. Now this shows a ship. It says a ship is leaving Kingsgate Harbor. Stands for a physical movement across borders with the use of any means of transportation. So this is the travel, much like the ship card. It's about traveling, transport, movements, distance, distant movement. So it's, again, similar to the ship card. Which again, very important to have. We have the letter, again, letter, email, invitations, tickets, flyers, packages. I use it for the letter for other things when those things aren't important, but it's some sort of message that's coming through. I love the message on the bottle. I love the artwork. And then we can see on that same, not the same exact shoreline, but we can see that on that same beach is our lovely dog, which is also, again, friendship, loyalty, trust, unconditional, similar to the dog card in Lenormand. Very important to be able to look for our friends and allies. So now we have another fae. I should have pulled out the fae, right? We have sort of the earlier trickstery fae, right? We also had the two asklings as well that were fae energy, and now we have the mermaid, and this is Mara. She is half woman, half seahorse. Love it. And happily swimming in the water, careless, playful, unpretentious. So I mean, I guess that's good to see, at least, because I was a little, I was like, oh, like, because again, a lot of fortune telling decks do have sort of like that devious woman, and so it's kind of like, do we have to have another, woman luring us off into the, away from the garden? But we also have a playful, carefree one, and I actually don't think that she's necessarily evil. I think she's just fey, and look, if you're gonna not pay attention to the tail and be careful, that's kind of on you. But so we do have both a more seductive, be careful, like that your senses aren't being overwhelmed by something, versus a really kind of light and playful, almost dolphin-y kind of energy that we often see in cards that is different as well. Oh, look at that chunka baby. Look at that chunka baby. Again, we have the child card. But this is more to do with, an actual child or children, or it can be about innocence. It can be about naiveness, vulnerability as well. And so it's less about the something new is coming, and more about that purity, that innocence, that way in which a child should make us feel. Chocolate baby, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Here we have the pearl. So this is interesting because this has rising energy also, sort of like a status. But I think there's so much you could do with the pearl, right? So this could be about finding something really valuable, a gaining of importance. It almost has a feeling of like the Six of Wands, where there's that recognition and you're starting to sort of go up in the world. Which would kind of leave the... that's kind of interesting, and I kind of like, again, this is just me processing, right? So just pay me no mind. But that leaves the moth, oh, that's over here. That leaves the moth as being more like stork energy and moving forward. This would be much more like high honors, more of that rising. Okay, you found something that is going to pull you up in the world, right? But I think there's so much you could also do with that for our coping mechanisms, and being able to surround the things that hurt us and smooth out those energies. So there's other things I think you could also do with that would be interesting. But yeah, so that's that. Ooh, I love that image. Here we have the wave, variety, dynamics, acceleration, fluctuating energy. So this is water that is moving and shifting energy. It's not good or bad. It's just dynamic and moving and changing. So I love, love, love that. It gives us a really good idea when energy is moving like that. Have I missed the middle of summer? Probably. Probably. Oh, yep. That one is the middle. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to save those. Here we have a jellyfish. Again, these are difficulties. They're beautiful, but you're going to get stung, could get stung by it. Making sure that you're really watching carefully. They can literally, even though this is absolutely gorgeous, I've definitely been around jellyfish and got stung by jellyfish. Sometimes they're just so into the clear in the water that you really don't even see it, or you're up above the surface, so it's difficulties that are below the surface. I think that is a great card to have. It kind of feels like in Illuminated Earth Oracle has like the iceberg where you think you're seeing the problems, but there's really a lot more beneath the surface. So if you don't see this, right, it's going to be a painful consequence for not seeing what was beneath the surface. So I love that. Here we have the lightning, again, immediate, fast, striking, electricity. So really, again, gives us that feeling of how is the energy. It is out of there. It's unexpected. It's something that just comes out of the blue and strikes. Again, very good energy to have access to in a reading, If you know, right? I love lighthouses, beacon, navigation, guiding, orienting yourself, scanning, seeing if you're in the lighthouse. So yeah, all the things you can do with lighthouse energy. We have then, well, that's the ending one for summer. Then we start up autumn being moving more fast, more to do the results of what, we're seeing the results of what we've achieved, those types of things. This is the rose. The first card of autumn is a rose preserved under a fragile dome held together by thorns. If we look through the cracks in the glass, we see an illusion of something beautiful that once was. So it's cherishing, it's preserving, it's honoring, but is it something that you might need to let go and release as well, which is really beautiful for autumn energy. We have an ember pie. I don't know if that's like a real kind of pie. It says ember pie is a group of friends. The well is that's talking about. It's a cozy room with a delicious ember pie, and there's plenty to share. So this is really more social, consuming, celebrating, kind of like Pertho in runes, right? It's the act of coming together, kind of Three of Cupsy, right? That we're coming together, we're enjoying life, we're connecting, we're playing games. So I quite like that energy. Is different, right, than the well, where we're just connecting around the work water. I say water pot, but that's, you know what I mean, water dispenser, or the coffee pot or whatever, or like the garden where we're kind of getting out and connecting to people. These are our friends. These are people that we're getting together and just having a good time with. So I think that's great energy. Love me a book, or this is a library card. The Royal Library displays an open book containing all kinds of information, education, knowledge, knowing, understanding, finding, similar to the book card. And Lenormand, I like that I know there's a scarecrow card, and you can see that out here. Here we have a phone. This is about communication, more to do with like audible communication. Again, I don't tend to use those a lot in Lenormand. Like, I don't use the birds for audible, the letter for written, but this doesn't come up in the types of readings that I need to do. But I like this for listening, gossip. It's kind of the hub. I just think of all of those telephone operators, and they were listening in on people's conversations. So that whole idea of listening, and that type of thing, like having a good, one-on-one conversation, more. So I could see things to do with that I think is really cool. Here we have a ghost card. Her name is Aura. Aura is not, so we've had, again, these different Fae energies, including spirits, which I love. It's intuitive, spirit, caring, guiding, shielding the deceased. This could also be an ancestor card, right? We have the past life card, and now for me, I do a lot of past life work and a lot of ancestor work, so this could be an ancestor card. Now I'm just going to kind of pull these forward. There are three kind of cards that you could use on top. There is in the guidebook a way you could use these on top of the ghost card, and I just want to mention these because these are honorings of, these are not cards I would mix into the deck for myself, but I do think it's beautiful because these are, I'm trying to find it while I talk here, but these are actual kind of honorings of people. Yes, the three mirror cards. The first, the dog is the creator's dog, Ina, who died at age 14. The child is his aunt, Heidi. She died when she was 4. And the woman is his inspiration, Serpa, who showed him the way out to pursue your dreams and to experience life. Cancer took her away from this world. And so these are honorings, and it does give you an idea of how you could use those if you wanted to add them in conjunction with the ghost card, which is why I brought them up with the ghost card. Again, these I think are beautiful honorings, but not ones that I will probably mix. I don't see myself mixing those into the deck. Okay, but love, love, love. And I love those as well, but I love the ghost card. Then we have a Ouija board, which is this is actually, it says it's yes, but it's a false yes. That's so interesting. This is the answer we want to hear. So you think about somebody like using a Ouija board and pushing it themselves. So this is definitely taking Ouija boards as, something that, cannot be controlled by the spirits. But think about it, even if you believe in spirits, right, and you work with spirits, there is certainly always, I don't work with Ouija boards either. Y'all know how I feel about that. But even if there is a situation in which a spirit could contact this way, obviously there's a lot of room for somebody with their finger on that planchette to be pushing it to what they want, the answers that they want to hear. So it's going to be very hard to know whether or not you're really getting a message, or is it just that, you're kind of even subconsciously pushing the answer in the direction that you want? I think that's a great card to have access to. Okay, so you can see all, like, here is the start, the middle, and the ending of winter, spring, summer, and fall. So it's almost like you've got a bit of a court system in a way, but it's more about timing and movement, which I love, because you've got obviously each one of the suits of the seasons, but you also have clear when you've hit that beginning, when you've hit that middle phase, and the energy of the middle phase, and there's just much more, still to go before you get to the end energy. Things might feel a little bit slower then, just depending on how you read it. And then energy at the end of a particular season. So you've got the suit, but then you do have each suit has those 3 really important cards. So there's 10 sort of basic cards, and then 3 in each of the suits of the beginning, middle, and end of season energy. And he definitely talks about that in the guidebook in a couple places, and I think even in 120, I wrote down 120 as well, on how you can utilize those in a reading. Obviously, if you've got quite a few ending cards in the same reading or beginning cards, it would be like having like several kings or several pages, that type of thing, right? That, again, it gives you more of a system to see when you're getting certain cards that are showing up in conjunction with other ones. So I love that. I love the seasonality of this. I love that it's the 52 weeks. I love that it's going through the different seasons. Definitely hard to shuffle. It's a beautiful thick cardstock, matte, gilded. So you're not going to, if those of us who are riffle shufflers, you're not going to get a big bend on it. But that's, how unfortunately it is with this beautiful cardstocks. But I usually just try to get, because I have other decks like this that I love to use, so I try to get like one good riffle out, and then, we'll shuffle it up. Obviously, when it's fresh, it's, get a few more in. And I'm guessing as I use it, it will break itself in. But the smaller the card, and you stay with that beautiful stuff that works with tarot, it can be hard on riffle shufflers, but people don't make decks just for riffle shufflers. And please do as I say, not as I do. If you riffle shuffle gilding, it will get used look to it. Now, if it's good gilding, it will use nicely. It can start to chip off. I don't worry about that. I riffle shuffle everything, and I'm okay with how riffled gilding looks. If you are not, then please don't do what I do. I'm just trying to get a good mix here. So again, I'm not going to go into reading with this because I know this is already really long, but if you're used to reading with Lenormand, if I want to say do a reading for a past life, I could shuffle up, turn it over. I like to turn over and find significator cards for 9 cards. So I would find the Askling of the past, the one that's looking to the past, right? And so I would find, if I already passed it, nope, there it is. And I would pull the cards, before and the cards after. This is how I do 9 cards with Lenormand, right? And then I can go ahead and do my reading. But in this case, you've got the power of the suits, which I love. Um, because I have to say, after Nellie's deck, that I have my own deck that's fortune telling deck that is on tarot cards, so I get the suits. So I kind of miss those correlations. This is the same cartomancy style, but it gives me the suits as well, and so I love that. So you can look and see, okay, wow, I have quite a bit of summer energy on the table, and so what could that bring to the message that I'm bearing, that I'm looking for. I do have two winters. Obviously this is one I picked, so I wouldn't pay, but everything else is summer, so that would add something to it as well. Then I would obviously look and see, I've got one middle, I've got one ending, so I don't have a preponderance of middle, beginning, or end, but I would look for that, right? And so on and so forth. So but again, I would read this very much like I would be reading Lenormand. You can read your past, present, future. You can read your as above, so below, and maybe physicality, or as above, here on earth, and like what some information below. You can do your corners, you can do your cross, you can do everything that you can do cartomancy style reading, and you can also again, put this out as a big tableau. You would definitely have to have space to pull these out as a tableau. It wouldn't fit here, but you can definitely do that. And again, treat it as you would a Kipper tableau or a Lenormand tableau, right? You would treat it similarly with the houses, and do all those things also. So I'm stoked about this deck. I will definitely be using this deck, and we'll have to check back with you. But this has everything in it that I think you need for, and then some, and some stuff that we don't have in other cartomancy style decks, that I'm very, very, very excited to use this deck. And I will make sure to check back with you on this, because again, I know I've crammed a lot into longer even already than normal, but this to me has all of the makings of a fantastic reader, and I don't feel like there's anything missing. All of the basics are there, all of some really cool extras to work with as well. So very excited. Matches my reading table, really cool. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I'm going to say a big old kudos to both the creator, Dennis Kalat, or Calais, and definitely the artist, Inge, I'm sure it's not correct, Lan, but beautifully, artistically beautiful, and systematically beautiful deck here that I'm really excited to work with. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this, and that you have a wonderful rest of your day.